Okay, remember that the oppressors are changing my voice. So in Rio Del Mar, I went over the 7 trumpets. Okay. And here in Santa Cruz, here on Westcliff, in this very spot, not too long ago, I went over the 7 bowls of God's wrath in Revelation 16. So now we're on Revelation 17. Babylon, the prostitute on the beast. So keep in mind, before it talks about the prostitute emerging, people were being punished. So what is the result of that punishment? Well, they told you leading up that they refused to repent. They refused to stop worshiping demons, right? The word worship is a play on words for worship and worship. So when you see the shapes of the people of the world, right? Their common gym shape, military, police, whatever it is, right? Churches, right? Common nerd shape, whatever, fraternities, right? They're on the broad path to destruction, right? Narrow is the way to life. So they took on that worship. Now again, I don't care about how your flesh is shaped. They changed my shape, they changed my look. That's not so important. But when people deliberately come into those formations to fit in and to find their life in the world, then they didn't stop worshiping demons. 1 John 2:15, do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in him. They love the world by becoming part of the world, by becoming one with the world instead of one with the Father. So one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters. With her the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth are intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries. So what happened? The kings, the leaders of the earth, whether they're the kings of mathematics or the king of a country or a president or the kings of a political party or a cult, the leaders of the earth, okay, spiritually and otherwise, committed adultery with the spirit of the prostitute, which is the idea of a city, Babylon, a nation that went against God and worshiping false idols. And in doing so, okay, they were drunk off the blood of the saints who they had screened out, right? Some directly killed them, some of them robbed them, some of them drove them to insanity and suicide, some of them poisoned them. Okay, they're drunk off the blood of God's people, God's loyal people. And I don't mean the Jews or the Gentiles, I mean those who are righteous, who do the work of God. Like it says in the New Testament, the people who obey the commands of God are the family of Christ. Those who do the will of God. Those who don't just believe that there's a God, those who do the will of God. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. Okay, so the gold stands for wisdom. The stones has to do with how you build the temple, what people get stoned to death for, under what law, God's law, secular law. Okay, the pearls go back to the parable of the hidden pearl or lost pearl. That's what that's about, okay? What you value, what you live, how you live your life, what is your fortress, what you rely on, what you value. And you see, obviously, the values of the nations and the masses are very dark and contorted, and they twist things and they lie about things. Okay, so, I was just cut off just now. I was saying that they pretend that which isn't important is important, right? I was fumed a little while ago, what have you. And they pretend that things that are evil are good. Like when they go to their churches, they go to their religious places. Are they really in the spirit of moral precision? No. So then they're not holy. They're just in the spirit of conformity, the spirit of their communities, of their society, of their nation, of their city, what have you. They're not in the spirit of God. And so they're drunk off the blood of the saints as they didn't do what it takes to help them. Whoever doesn't gather with me scatters. One who's slack in his work is brother to one who destroys. That which you didn't do for the least of my brethren, you didn't do for me. So as they come into a different spirit, instead of scrambling to do God's work, running in the paths of his commands, they They're drunk off the blood of the saints and trying to derive pleasure from it like some kind of sadist. It's pretty straightforward. No matter how nice they might seem, the word sin is the word nice spelled backwards with an S instead of a CE. Okay? Because it's not enough to be nice, one must be righteous. Okay. The name written on her forehead was a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. Okay, so instead of on her forehead, which symbolizes what she thinks, how she lives, her brain activity, this figurative prostitute, Babylon, mystery prostitute, okay, is thinking the ways of Babylon, Baal and Nebo, which in, the modern forms of these idols are your modern cultures. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, their refusal to be in accord with God, to be one with God, to be consistent with God's regulations, instructions, corrections, and commandments, testifies against them. You know them by their works. So she's called the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. Now the word abominations is a play on words for Ebo, man, shuns. Ebo, man, shuns, Ebo, man. Okay, scrambled. So they're shunning the Son of God. The Ebo's my tribe. I'm the Christos, the Christ, the center, the heart, the core, the top martial arts ever possible. Martial is marital scramble. Christ is the bridegroom. Their refusal to not shun me as individuals, as communities. Their refusal to have their heart with God and to put God's work first. And to slip into kind of a magical state. It's like here in Santa Cruz, right, where there's Neptune's Kingdom. Over in Rio Del Mar, there's Venus Restaurant, and there's all kinds of other Greek ideas, Greco-Roman, Greek frats, UC Santa Cruz, what have you. So they're in a kind of psychological state where they try to be nice to each other and friendly, but they're slack in their work and they come into controlled opposition and they refuse to do the work of God. And as they refuse to do the work of God, people are suffering. People are dying. Okay, so it says, I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Remember in Psalm 19, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands, right? There's no actual speech coming, but there's figurative speech. They're declaring it by their actions, by the movements of the stars and the sun and the moon and so on and so forth, by their presence, their way about them. And when I look at them with my falcon vision, I see more evidence of God than the average person. And that comes from walking in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice in the warrior spirit of God. Then the angel said to me, why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast. I have a little breeze there. I'll explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss and go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come. Okay, so what he's saying, first of all, the word beast is beta scrambled, right? Instead of the alpha, the betas, right? Merchants, craftsmen, what have you, elevating people who aren't truly the Son of God, in the minds of the wicked. They're elevating these people in their minds, okay? It's also best A, right? Best alpha. So they made their betas their best alpha. And you see it with the Greco-Roman deities, right? Zeus is a slob, okay? Apollo is, a silly, kind of goofy. He looks nearly identical to the fool on the tarot card. And I didn't make the tarot cards, okay? I'm not racist against the Greeks, okay? I don't care about race. My kingdom's not of this world. I'm mixed. On top of everything else. So you look at these various deities, right? They're very, we see it in the TV series Hercules back in the day, where they said the Greek gods are petty and cruel. Well, why would anybody follow Greek gods who are petty and cruel? It goes back to Babylon mystery, right? Baal is Zeus is equivalent, and Jupiter's equivalent. The Roman deity Jupiter, Jupit-ir. So they're in the mist. They're in a daze. They got hazed. They're being confused. They are being thrown off. They don't have the mental fortitude and sharpness to see through the devil's schemes. And the devil is real. Even if you're not religious, you should know that there's wicked people that are trying to abuse people. And just like you people are quick to admit that schools have a spirit, right? The spirit of Santa Cruz High, the spirit of Live Oak and Morgan Hill, Gunderson and San Jose, whatever it is, right? You say that there's a school spirit, then why don't you know that evil people have a spirit as well, especially when they come together and plot together and make a spiritual formation and a human formation together. So it's always funny to me that people would deny that spirits are real, but they admit that, they call it wine spirits for a reason. They admit that there's a school spirit. They admit that there's a spirit of a community. They admit that there's a spirit of a nation, but they think that there's no spirit of universal pinpoint and moral precision. It just doesn't make sense. They're not thinking straight. Okay, so this beast, which once was, now is not, and yet will come out of the abyss and go to its destruction, okay, is obviously the things that they're looking up to, right? The beast is a king, its heads are kings, the horns are kings. They're leaders of certain groups and nations and ways of thinking, certain lifestyles, leaders of fraternities and cults, and leaders of corporations. That's what they represent, the deities that those people worship. And so when they come into a group that worships an idea, that follows an idea to its finish, especially, that's what it's referring to, right? Chemosh, Nebo, Baal, okay, Asherah, right? Athena, and on and on and on. These are kings of nations. Many times, when you look at a cult group in the Middle East, okay, for example, the king of that nation, of that tribe, of that clan was seen as the chief deity of that group. That was quite common. So, or the champion warrior. At that time, the warrior would come into the spirit of the king, right? For example, the Philistines in Dagon, and they would take on whatever deity or group that they're facing. So that's something that a lot of people, it goes over their heads. It's more than just the king, it's also the deity. In fact, God is referred to as the king of the Israelites, those who are obeying God, that is, in the story. He said God is their king. So the kings aren't just the literal king, it's the deity that the king is worshiping. So the beast is an amalgamation of deities that are worshipped by kings, okay? And the kings themselves come in together to make a formation, to come together for a single purpose, which is to turn the world into hell. Hell on earth, to raise hell. The earth falls, never to rise again. Okay. The inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. Now, to make a long story short, it doesn't matter which deities these are. You could argue about it all day. You could say, well, it's the Greco-Roman deities. No, it's the Mesopotamian deities. No, it's their African source or whatever. The simple answer is, yeah, it's the gods of Egypt, except for Horus. Okay, it has to do with Set, it has to do with Apep, it has to do with the quote-unquote genius, which is the serpent deity of the Greco-Roman kind of mystery system, mythology system, okay, that's said to be the essence of a statue. That absolutely has to do with it. But the bottom line is it does not matter, okay? If it's evil, it has to do with the beast. That's what you need to remember. Don't get lost in trying to figure out the details of Revelation, because it's not logical, it's not wise, it's not prudent, it's not something that someone with discipline and sense would do. So when you look at that, you say, okay, you know them by their works, you should do the right thing, you shouldn't cheat anybody out of their rightful place, you should obey the commands of God, and you know that anyone who isn't obeying the commands of God is following the beast, is following the dragon, is following the prostitute that rode the beast. And it's that simple, okay? So I could explain to you in different ways what these kings are, but that's just a waste of time. Okay. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war against the Lamb. but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. So now, why does the Lamb triumph? Well, why did Stephen the martyr triumph? Why did John the Baptist triumph, right? They got killed, right? Why did Jesus, when he was crucified, triumph? Because he triumphed in principle. When you're the top martial artist ever possible, when you're me, okay, you can't lose. How could I lose? What could they say? They say they all put their heads together and sabotaged me and kept the message from getting out. Okay, to suggest that you could beat me is suggesting that you could beat God. It can't be done. They say, well, we set him up, or we provoked him, or we poisoned him. All this stuff, is to their extreme disgrace. Should a child molester brag about how many kids he raped, okay, or sexually abused? No. Okay, he should stop doing it. And so it is with persecuting the Son of God. Only the dumbest of fools would say, hey guys, we cheated the Son of God, and somewhere out there is some hot chick that he would have married or something that is married to someone else, and starts snickering like Dick Dastardly. That's stupid. That's why it's in Proverbs it says the heart of the wicked is of little value. If you persecuted Christ, your heart is of little value and affects how you love your wife, your kids, what have you. It says folly is bound up in the heart of a child. So you're a childish person with a heart of little value. It says wickedness overthrows the sinner, and your wickedness has overthrown you. So you're a wicked-hearted person who's a child, who has folly, who's bound up in his heart, okay, whose own wickedness has overthrown them. That's why it's saying that they cannot win against me, because they says they will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers, with or without him. But they're with me because I'm in the Spirit of God. So not without him in that sense, because I'm in the Spirit of God and I'm going to remain there. And I'm never not going to be in the Spirit of God. I always will be in the Spirit of God. Okay, so as the top martial artist ever possible, I am who I am. I am that I am. The I am makes it so that I'm victorious. I am the Son of God, the top martial artist ever possible. I am determined to do God's work. I am going to do God's work to the finish. Therefore, they cannot beat me because I am King of Kings. And my martial art victory, which is the greatest victory ever possible in the universe, first and foremost, praising the Father, God, and the Holy Spirit. Okay? As the Son of God, I will reign as the top martial artist ever possible, forever and ever. Again, I will reign as the top martial artist ever possible, forever and ever. That is forever. And they will always bear with them and their offspring and their family spirits and the spirits they're joined to, their nation spirits, the shame and disgrace for everything they did against me. Everything they did against me is contending with me, but first and foremost is contending with God. They will always bear the disgrace of contending with God by contending with the one God set apart as the top martial artist ever possible. See Psalm 2. Let me just wrap this up here. Probably running low on memory on my phone. And I got fumed pretty heavily there, but there's a breeze that kind of took a lot of it away, kind of dissipated. And again, that's to their extreme disgrace, right? While I'm reading this, they stoop to the level of doing that. I thank God I'm in God's spirit and not in their spirit. I thank God I'm in God's spirit, not the American spirit, because America sat there doing nothing while I'm being persecuted for doing God's work as the Christos, the anointed one, the Son of God. Okay. Where are we here? Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. Again, it's right there in Revelation 17:15 why Christ doesn't literally come back on a cloud. So for someone to say, hey, why don't you walk on water or turn water into wine or come back on a cloud or resurrect someone? Because the miracles are figurative. Okay, it says right here that when you have that vision, right, the language of God, the waters represent the people's multitudes, nations, and languages. When you speak the true language of God, you know that the miracles are figurative. You know what he's saying when he says he's going to come back on a cloud is figurative. A cloud is a collection of water. And Moses splitting the Red Sea was figurative. Okay, the Red Sea has to do with the sea of people. Okay, turning water into wine has to do with turning the people who are the water of the world, who come to God and become the water of God, okay, into the blood that was shed for God. The wine symbolizes the blood that was shed for God, like in communion and Mass. Okay, the Last Supper. The beast and the 10 horns You saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay, so what will happen? She will become an inhuman, gender-neutral, harlot. Even more, the essence of such, that's the path she's on. A witch. There's a reason why the word witch rhymes with the B word, what have you. Then will go to hell and death. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over to the beast their royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. Now, what does it mean, right? There is no one city that rules over the kings of the earth. There's a bunch of globalists and their family members live all over the place and so on and so forth. And to some degree, they don't really rule over things because there's too many people and there's too many rich people, like 50 million millionaires and billionaires in the world, right? So they're not doing much. Their split is rather feeble, rather pathetic. Okay, so what it's referring to again is the idea of Babylon, the principles of Babylon, the spirit of Babylon, not an actual physical place. And that's probably the main place people go wrong in the Bible. The two main places is one, that God's order is the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language. Amos 9:7, are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel? Genesis 10, Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, Nimrod founded Babylon. Abraham's from Ur in Chaldea. I know I'm speaking fast because I'm wrapping this up. It says, like Nimrod, a mighty warrior for the Lord, is a proverbial saying that Abraham was aware of. Abraham, Ham. There's a reason why the Jews went to Egypt. I can go on and on about why that is, right? But bottom line is, you know them by their works. I'm from the royal family of Martin Luther King's tribe, okay? And so my works and my tribe's works, they precede me. They precede me to the point where even the word placebo is a play on words for place, Igbo. And that's the name of my tribe, Igbo, right? Kuro Obi black belt. Obi backwards is Igbo. Obi in Igbo, the Igbo language means King Heart Hut, Essence Center, Temple Core, which goes back to the languages in the water, they represent the people, the nations, the multitudes, the languages. Now the peoples includes the spirit of the people. And the spirit of the Igbo people in his center, in his core, in his heart, is the king, and that's me, the king of kings, the top martial artist ever possible. Okay, could you be the king of kings by being the king of basketball or computers or science? No, you'd have to be the king of martial arts, because martial arts are lifestyles, and I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And in fact, martial art abbreviated M.M, spelled backwards, is M. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now. So I'll get into Revelation 18 some other time. So I'm about to, head back now. Thank you.